Welcome back to the Clean My Space channel. My name is Melissa Maker and I am an accidental cleaning expert. And in this video, I am located in the kitchen because that's what I want to talk about. I want to give you all the tips and tricks and shortcuts for cleaning your kitchen that lead to excellent results. So stick around and learn a thing or two about keeping this beautiful space beautiful. After the video, head to makersclean.com and use coupon code YouTube10 to save 10% on all regular priced merchandise, including our award-winning Makers Mop, our world-famous microfiber cloths, and much more. To clean the exterior of your cabinets, if there's like a little stain or mark there, you're just doing a general cleaning, this is how I would approach it. I would take a bottle of all-purpose cleaner and I would spray starting from the top, working my way to the bottom, and I'd work section by section. So this entire chunk of cabinets, I would do at once, both the top and the bottom. By the time I've done my spraying and maybe I've done one or two other things, about 5 minutes will have passed. That will be enough time for the all-purpose cleaner to sort of do its thing, work its way into any dirt, surface marks, etc. And then I can come back and give each cabinet a wipe down with a microfiber cloth using the S pattern, just working my way from the top to the bottom, making sure I get into all of the different grooves. Now, a couple of things you might want to consider doing if you do have any grooves in your panel or any fancy footwork. I don't know exactly the design term for it, but to get in here every now and then, I'm not saying, 50 times a year, but I'm saying maybe once or twice a year, you can use a cleaning toothbrush just to clean out any dirt, grease, anything that's sort of built up. When I do heavy duty move in, move out cleans, that's often something that makes a really big difference. Kitchen cabinets also feature one of our favorite topics of late, points of contact. So what you would want to consider as well is to simply spray this area with a disinfectant, or you can use a disinfecting wipe to give it a wipe down for a couple of seconds to scrub, not a couple of seconds. Sorry, you have to follow package instructions to make sure that you're getting the maximum benefit from your disinfecting product, whatever it may be. Or you can treat it with some rubbing alcohol. But again, you have to be mindful of the type of finish and make sure that whatever disinfecting product you're using is safe for the particular finish that you have. I'd say the most difficult thing to clean off of a cabinet is grease, whether it's a greasy fingerprint or greasy splatter that's built up over time. That is going to be your biggest challenge. What you can use is an enzyme cleaner. I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to give you a link to my favorite one down below. We also have a video on enzyme cleaners, and if you're curious, you can check that out. But you want to spray the enzyme cleaner on the surface, and you want to get it very wet. It should be dripping wet. Enzyme cleaners only work if the surface is wet for a few minutes, typically 2 to 5 minutes. Once that's done, you can then take your microfiber cloth and wipe. The lovely thing about enzyme cleaners is you really don't have to do any scrubbing. The product does the heavy lifting for you. And by the time the product has been wiped off, your grease should be gone. Now, if you have a steam cleaner handy, steam is really a great way to get rid of grease. So you would just load up your steamer with water, you'd plug it in, you would use the appropriate tool, nothing with scrubbing. You would just want to aim straight steam over the stain itself. You can spray it on the surface and then have a cloth handy to wipe up any residual moisture or liquid. The cabinets are going to look great. Steam is very easy, but you do need to have a steam cleaner, so the choice is yours. To clean the interior of your cabinets, it's pretty straightforward. In fact, you can use any of the products that we've already talked about to tackle the exact same issues inside. I will say if you have a steam cleaner, it is really easy to just blast some steam in there and give everything a good wipe. One thing I will recommend, particularly if it's a pantry or somewhere where there are lots of crackers and chips and nuts, you know where this is going, is to remove everything and then give it a really good vacuum using a vacuum with a brush attachment or even a little handheld broom, just to sweep all of the schmutz out of there before you start wiping down. You might also notice that there are some stains or some slide marks from, repeated motions of you like sliding cans out. If you do see that, something you might want to consider is using some shelf liner. It's pretty inexpensive, and the nice thing is it preserves the surface inside your cabinet. And you can get kind of fancy with it and get, pretty prints. You have fun with it, whatever you want. Now, the final thing I'll tell you about the interior cabinets is if you notice they're a little bit smelly, quick fix, just put a box of baking soda in there. It's actually a great trick for, your spice cupboard or any area where you're storing anything that it might have a bit of an off smell. It's such an easy, inexpensive fix, and it works like a charm. It's easy to get a microwave dirty. Just put something in there, heat it up, let it explode, and you've got yourself a big, disgusting mess in your microwave. My number one tip to microwave enthusiasts is to cover whatever it is that you're microwaving to avoid that fallout. But even people who use protection in the microwave still deal with a bit of a mess. So the best way to clean it is to get yourself a microwave-proof bowl, fill it with water, take a lemon, cut it in half, squeeze both halves of the lemon into the bowl, throw the lemon skins in there, and then microwave it for about 3 minutes. What that does is it kind of creates a bit of a steam room sauna effect in the microwave. And that is really going to help break down grease and dirt and grime and all of the buildup in the microwave. Then at the 3-minute mark, you're going to remove that bowl and take a microfiber cloth and work your way from inside the door to the inside walls, even the roof, and of course the rotating plate. You want to make sure that you get everything inside that microwave squeaky clean. When that's all done, you also want to give the exterior of the microwave a wipe down. Just remember when you're cleaning the electronic panel to spray your cloth and wipe it down that way instead of spraying the panel directly. The first thing to do is to unload your dishwasher after you've done a cycle of dishes. This is the prime time for you to clean a dishwasher as soon as you've gotten a load out. Now, I do want to point out this is a brand new dishwasher for us, although it is nowhere near a brand new dishwasher. This is the one that we acquired when we moved into the house. I'm still getting acquainted with it, and to do this video, I actually went online to the Kenmore website to look up exactly how to deal with this dishwasher and how to clean it, and where the filter was located, and I will get to that shortly. But if you are not 100% familiar with the inner workings of your dishwasher, take a minute, find the model, find the brand, and just go online and figure out how your dishwasher works. I'm just filling this measuring cup with white vinegar. That will be for later on at the end of this cleaning, but I just figured, hey, I might as well get it out of the way. Next, I'm removing the cutlery basket and the lower rack. This just makes the bottom area and the door much more accessible for cleaning. I'll clean the cutlery basket later, but I'm not going to clean the bottom rack. It didn't need it. Now I'm taking an all-purpose spray and I'm spraying the frame of the dishwasher as well as the door of the dishwasher. I find that gets the grimiest. Now I'm mixing equal parts baking soda and dish soap, and I'm going to apply it with a cleaning toothbrush to the gasket and the frame of the dishwasher. As I said, this gets the crustiest, the grossest, and you can just spend some time going around these areas. I also went into the detergent tray as well, just a quick little bonus. And I'll also point out that the area underneath your dishwasher might get some like crusty brown drips, so just be aware of that. Now my dishwasher doesn't have a removable filter, but the one in my old house does, so I'm going to cut to that for you. The spinning arm was removable, so I actually just gave that a quick rinse. If you notice that you're not getting water coming out of the spinning arm the way you'd like to, or your dishes aren't getting as clean, you might want to take some picture hanging wire and just quickly go in and out of those little holes that shoot the water. That can really help with efficiency. Now you can replace your spinning arm or your filter, and you can finish up any of the work around the frame and the gasket. So I just agitated everything after I applied that baking soda and dish soap mixture. Now I'm using some water to sort of loosen everything up, and then a microfiber cloth to just wipe it and buff it. The door and the frame and the gasket practically look brand new. This was totally worth doing. Now I've got the cutlery basket and the bottom rack going back in, and I'm going to put that cup of vinegar on the top rack of my dishwasher and run through a sanitized cycle. Now, you can do this with baking soda at the bottom. You can do this with a dishwashing cleaner tablet. As long as you do this with some sort of product that will help descale and deodorize your dishwasher, you're fine. Now, the exterior of my dishwasher being white,
does get a little bit discolored. So I'm using some baking soda on a cleaning toothbrush to remove some of that discoloration. Then I'll just clean it with some all-purpose cleaner and a microfiber cloth. And of course, if you have stainless steel appliances, you can give that a wipe down too. One thing I forgot to mention is your instrument panel. You do want to give that a little spray and wipe, and that's it.
We'll kick things off by emptying out our blender jar first, so dumping it or scraping it just to make sure you don't have any really cakey stuff on the side. Then you're going to add about a cup to a cup and a half of water and just 1 to 2 drops of dish soap. Then put the lid back on, throw it on the base, and give it a good spin for about 30 seconds. Once that's done, just take the jar off the base, dump it out in your sink, add some running water just to rinse out any of those remnants, and then put it on a towel and let it dry. In my many years of blending experience, allow me to strongly advise you to do what we just did right now immediately after you finish making your beverage. That way, you're not going to have anything caked on. That makes it so much harder to clean. You'll probably notice here that I have some very simple cleaning products and easy to find household cleaning tools. That's because oven cleaning doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be harsh. You just have to know what you're doing and have a plan of attack. I'm not a firm believer in using heavy-duty oven cleaning chemicals. First of all, I'm not totally comfortable using them, and second of all, I don't want those chemicals in my oven that will then cook food that me and my family will eat. So that's why I like to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to give you a rundown of the things that I have here so that you can grab them and clean along with me. First and foremost, got some paper towel. I've got microfiber cloth and vinegar. This is for after the fact. We're not using this during the cleaning. I've then got dish soap and baking soda. That's right, I bought it from the bulk food store that we're gonna be using as our main product for cleaning the oven. I've got a scraper. You can use a windshield scraper, old credit card, or one of these. I'll link it for you down below. Then I've got a Scotch-Brite heavy-duty scrub pad. Love these for this task. And I've also got some steel wool, which I probably won't use, but it's always good to have on hand in case you need to level up a bit. Oh, and I also have some newspaper, which I'll be putting on the floor to catch all the dirt. Today, I'm also going to be cleaning the drawer and the area under the drawer, so I will start by removing everything from the drawer. And this is just good general practice because when you're cleaning your oven, you might get some liquid dripping in. Next up, I'm removing the oven racks as well. You can clean those in the bathtub. I've got that video for you linked below. Now, lining the area with newspaper is a good idea. It just saves you from having to do additional cleanup afterward. Looking inside the cavity of the oven, if you will, you'll see there's quite a bit of buildup in there, and some of it's loose and some of it is hardened on, which is why I'm using this scraper to do some cursory cleaning. I want to get off as much as I can so that I don't actually have to scrub and clean that mess up. So I'm just using a paper towel to do that, wiping it all out. Now I'm making up a solution, 4 parts baking soda, 1 part dish soap, 1 part water. I'll stir it up, and you want to have a nice thick paste, so you can fiddle around with the consistency. If you want it a little bit thinner, go for it. I'm just applying it by hand here. I'm sure there's a more eloquent way to do it, but I just felt like going crazy town. So here I am. I'm putting it on the sides, even on the door, but I have a feeling I'm going to do the door with Barkeeper's Friend. Now I'm removing that drawer and just using a handheld vacuum to get under, because seriously, who is pulling out their oven? And I found a giant spider web, so it was a good thing I did it. Now I'm using a paper towel to wipe out any of the debris, and then I'm giving it a good spray because obviously I can't put this in the sink. I'm using a soap-filled sponge just to give it a good scrub down. Then I'm going to use a wet microfiber cloth to rinse the interior of this drawer, and I can put it off to the side. Little pro tip here is to put a towel down so that your knees don't get sore. Now in that bowl, I've just got some water. I've waited 30 minutes, by the way, to do this. That product has sat for 30 minutes, and I'm just starting to scrub. Now you guys will notice I'm using my left hand only. My right shoulder, for those of you who don't know, I dislocated it a while ago, so I actually can't clean with that arm, and it is my dominant arm, so my cleaning chops are a little bit suffering right now, but bear with me. So I'm doing a mix of the scraper and the heavy-duty scrub pad, making sure to get the sides, the back, and of course the bottom as well. I'm gonna give this window a good cleaning, but again, I'm just gonna use Barkeeper's Friend because it needs that extra oomph. It took me between 5 and 10 minutes to scrub inside that oven. And again, I was using my non-dominant hand, so I didn't get the best results. But that's essentially the technique that you're going to use. And now I'm just using water and microfiber cloths to quote unquote rinse the inside of the oven because baking soda leaves a residue behind. I'm gonna finish it up with a vinegar rinse here. So I'm just taking another microfiber cloth and giving everything a final wipe down with some vinegar. That just helps to cut any residual grease and polish things up in there. Now I'm splashing water onto the interior oven window and I'm sprinkling Barkeeper's Friend on there. It's a super powerful product, but you can only use it on the glass in here. I'm using that heavy duty scrub pad to get all of that buildup off. It really does take a little bit of effort, well, actually a lot of elbow grease, but it does come off, and this window ended up coming out beautifully clean. So here I'm using a microfiber cloth dipped in water to quote unquote rinse it off. You might want to do it once or twice. And you can see that glass is clean. I mean, the interior panels are another story, but the glass itself is very clean. The kitchen sink really sets the stage for a clean kitchen. If your kitchen sink is full of dishes or crap in there, it is not going to look good. But the other thing to keep in mind is that your kitchen sink is actually one of the dirtiest places in your home. So if you leave a sponge or a dish or a cup or some meat juice in there, bacteria starts to fester and other things can pick up that bacteria, therefore causing cross-contamination, or odors can start to form in your sink. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that your sink contains a drain, and in your drain is food and all kinds of other stuff that you have dumped down that drain. So the sink can really be a hot spot for concern in the kitchen. That's why you've got to reel it in and clean it properly. So I'm going to walk you through step by step what you should do. I'm going to share with you some tips, things that you might not have thought of, and just some general ways that you can make your sink probably look better than it ever has. In other words, if your sink got a makeover, it would look 10 years younger. First, I'm dumping a half cup of baking soda down each drain. This is going to help deodorize everything while I'm cleaning, and then I'll run some hot water down there at the end. Next, I'm drenching the entire sink with all-purpose cleaner. Now, generally, soap and water is good enough to clean and get rid of bacteria in your sink. I've added some tea tree oil in there for some extra pizzazz. Now I'm sprinkling baking soda. This was a little aggressive. I used a lot, but baking soda in there as my scouring product. Now I'm spraying a paper towel with some plain white vinegar, and I'm going to wrap this around the area of my faucet that has some hard water buildup and some crustiness in it. You can do this anywhere on your faucet though. I just needed to do it right there. Now I'm taking a toothbrush, I wet it with some all-purpose cleaner, I squirted some dish soap on there, and I'm going to use this to give a really nice deep clean to the area where the sink meets the countertop for this undermount model. But if you have a sink that sits above your countertop, you can do the exact same thing where your sink meets your counter. The idea here is that you really want to dig in with that toothbrush and get to some of that gunk that is otherwise hidden. Now I'm using the exact same technique to focus on my drain. I'm just putting some all-purpose cleaner there to wet it. I'm adding some dish soap to my toothbrush. I'm going to use some of that baking soda that's already there. And the toothbrush will really allow me to detail all of those little grooves and nooks and crannies around the drain that would otherwise be very difficult to reach. This is important because a clean drain can be hard to attain with just a sponge. Now that the heavy lifting is done, I'm using the back side of a double-sided sponge to give my sink a really good scrub down. You can also use a dish wand if you prefer. That's a nice alternative. It might be more comfortable for you. I just decided to use a sponge. And the soap from the all-purpose cleaner plus the baking soda is giving me every opportunity to really scour this sink well, and I love using baking soda to get the sink super, super clean. I'm working my way from the top, spiraling my way down to the bottom, and then cleaning the base. Now I'll hit it with some hot water. I like to use the spray setting, but I don't really think it makes a difference. And I'm going right from the top where the undermount is all the way down to the bottom. You want to make sure you don't miss too much, otherwise you'll have trouble when you're trying to shine it up later. Now I'll take my cleaning toothbrush and I'm just going to work my way through those grooves on the faucet where I notice some gunk.
I'm using the vinegar soaked cloth to wipe it. You can even kind of wedge it right in there and get some of that crud out. And then I'm using the toothbrush just to detail some other areas that I wanted to clean really well. Now is the fun part. I'm buffing everything out. So the rest of the faucet wasn't too bad, which is why it just needed a quick wipe. And I'm using this large Ultra Plush microfiber cloth, it's a Maker's of course, to shine and dry the sink. Now the cool part about this is if I notice that I've missed a spot, which I probably didn't, but I'm gonna show you how to do this anyway. You can spray some white vinegar and use it as a little bit of an eraser. So if you notice you've missed a spot or a water spot, spray some vinegar and buff it off. And now I'm going to soak my faucet, which has hard water buildup on there, with some vinegar. So I've added the remainder of my vinegar to a zipper lock bag, and I'll leave this for a couple of hours.
Any stovetop that you're dealing with, one of the things that I like to do is pull off those knobs, because you don't realize that on the dials or the knobs that you use to adjust temperature, grease gets behind those, and over time that builds up and gets crusty. So you can pull those off, give the panel a wipe down. I would just use equal parts dish soap and baking soda. I would create a paste and I would use that sparingly on a sponge so that I don't have a ton of cleanup to do afterward, but that's really gonna help lift up grease. If you have a flat cooktop, whether it's induction or electric, which is what we have, just the electric glass cooktop, those can be a little bit more challenging to clean because the glass is a bit more of a sensitive material. You never want to clean the surface when it's hot, but you do want to clean it when it's warm, when that mess is still fresh, because if you let it cool, it can be really hard to remove. There are a few different products that you can use. Again, you can use that baking soda dish soap combination, and just apply it to sort of the greasy surface. But the most important thing is you want to clean it regularly so that there's no buildup, and you want to get it when it's warm.
First things first, you gotta empty the fridge. Don't be judgmental here, just pull everything out and get it on your counter. What I did instead of unplugging my fridge is I actually turned off the cooling mechanism so that I wasn't wasting electricity during this process. You just have to make sure that you turn it back on at the end of the cleaning. Now, as with any cleaning task, I'm just working from the top to the bottom. That way I'm being strategic and I'm not forgetting anything. Next up, it's time to remove the baskets, the bins, and the shelves. If you're not too familiar with your fridge, I would say to do this slowly and carefully. That way you don't break anything. Having been in the cleaning business for a long time, I can tell you I have broken 1 or 2 fridge shelves, and I've learned over the years, do it gingerly. Now I'm going to pre-treat the inside of the fridge with a simple all-purpose cleaner. We'll deal with that after. Next up, I'm sprinkling some baking soda in all of these little trays and bins and on the shelves, as well as spraying it with all-purpose cleaner. This is going to help provide a little bit of extra abrasion, deodorization, and stain removal. I've got a cleaning toothbrush, a microfiber cloth, and some all-purpose cleaner, and I'm going to tackle the inside of this fridge, moving from the top to the bottom, working my way from left to right. Now I'm respraying any areas that I clean only because I want to make sure that they're nice and wet when I'm actually giving them a wipe down. That way if there are any stains, they'll come off easier. The cleaning toothbrush is there to get into those little grooves, particularly in the crisper drawer and the shelf area. You can find like dried up pieces of lettuce or small little chunks of cheese that you really can't get out any other way aside from flicking them out with a little toothbrush. Finally, I'm tackling the gaskets, which are those little rubber seals around the doors. Those can get dirty and filthy over time, so use your cleaning toothbrush, give it a good little scrub, and then wipe it clean with a microfiber cloth. You can also do your door hinges at this time too. Now I'll take this double-sided sponge, I make sure it's damp, and then I'm going to tackle each one of these shelves and bins and drawers. It doesn't take too long. What I find is when they've had a chance to pre-treat, they clean up much easier, and that baking soda really helps remove any of the extra gunky stuff that's been built up. Now, for these bigger items, I like to clean them and replace them one at a time because frankly, it can be really overwhelming to find counter space, particularly when all of your refrigerated items are on your counter as well. So for these bigger things, I would just clean them, dry them, and put them right back. Now, it's important that you dry everything really well because you don't want to have excess moisture going back into the fridge after you've cleaned it. Again, if you're unsure how your shelves or your bins get reinstalled, just work slowly and make sure that you don't break or damage anything because these fridge components can be so expensive to replace. These panels of glass are also very challenging to work with, so just move slowly, handle them gently, and when you're cleaning and rinsing and replacing them, just take a little bit of extra time. You gotta take my word on this one. The other thing you might notice, particularly in your crisper drawers, are stains from, zucchini or broccoli or kale or whatever have you that sat at the bottom of the bin for a long time and eventually discolored it. This is something that you might be able to remove with a bit of baking soda and hydrogen peroxide. So you can always give that trick a shot as well. Now these bins came out pretty nice and clean, so I'm pretty happy. My fridge, I think, actually looks better than the day I moved in. Now I'm going to start filling it back up. What I do is have a microfiber cloth and a little bit of all-purpose cleaner handy. And before I replace an item, of course, I make sure, I still want it, I still need it, and it's still edible. And the next thing I'll do is give the bottom of that container a wipe. That's why you see me doing this in fast motion. I'm just holding, wiping, replacing. And anything that I'm not keeping, I'm just leaving on the counter. This is also a great chance for you to take inventory of what's in your fridge, what you might be out of. Do I need more pesto? Is that coconut milk just about finished? You can really start to keep track of things and make a mental note of what you're looking for. Always important to replace your box of baking soda. You should be doing this 4 times a year or at the change of every season. Just helps your fridge stay a little fresher and your food tastes better. And of course, I turn the temperature back on in the fridge as well.
Don't forget to visit makersclean.com and use coupon code YouTube10 to save 10% on all regular priced cleaning products.